that's the middle point. So if we can find that point, we can blend the two energies, and it's no longer dark and light.
Yeah.
But while we believe in the dark, it will be a dark energy, and it will work through us with any pornography, any excess.
Yeah.
You know, from the very basic innocent gossip where we slaughter people over our coffee, you know, to the bits where we get out the car and hoof people's heads in. You know, I used to kick people's teeth out, and then I'd wait for them to come around and I'd knock them out again and feel good about it afterwards because I'm fucking, you know, I'm Robin Hood, aren't I?
Yeah.
You know, but you don't realise that this energy is working through your ignorance and coming out, and it's creating karma in a world of causation, and we've got to pick the shit up from that.
All right, we're back again. I am here. Listen, I very rarely get mega excited about people that I'm interviewing. I've interviewed some pretty fucking cool people, as you know. But today, this guy, it's mad. I first read his book 20 years ago. His first book 20 years ago, which is mad. And his book, Warrior, is one of my favorite ever books, and I've recommended it to hundreds of people. And the reason I've got this guy on today is because his message is so powerful and it's impacted me so much, and I'm like, more people need to find out who this guy is. So without further ado, welcome to Mr. Geoff Thompson.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you.
Mate, I'm so excited, you know.
Oh, thanks for travelling all the way down here to talk to me.
Hey, mate, my pleasure. I feel like I don't get starstruck, and I've interviewed famous people, and I'm interviewing you. It's just because I feel like I've known you forever.
Because you've read the books, yeah.
It's because I've read the book and I know your whole story. So I'm not going to ask you to tell your story too much because I want to get straight into what you love to do, which is serve people.
Yeah.
So the first question I've got for you is, it's a bit left field, is, why do you think men these days, because my audience mainly men, seem to be so fucked?
I think it's because they can't express themselves properly. I can only speak from my own perspective.
Yes.
When I was younger, to admit that you was afraid, to admit that you were feeling fear, even when I was doing karate way back in the 70s, you know, I felt like I was the only person in the room that was terrified. And I'd ask other people, if when I felt a bit brave, I said, how do you feel? Do you feel a bit nervous? And they would just say no. So and they lied, obviously, but I just thought, it's just me. And that's what fear likes. Fear is an energy. If you imagine thought and fear, this negative, in Judaism they call it the Sita Akra, this negative energy is a real force like gravity. And it works through people, and it wants you to feel like it's a real force. It's not like an allegory or a metaphor. It wants you to feel like you're on your own. It wants you to feel like you're the only person who feels like this. You're the only person who does this to yourself, these little secret things we do to ourselves in private, the little things that we're ashamed of, the little things that we don't even really do, that they're done by our conditioning, or they're done by this energy that enters us and takes over us. So we don't want to talk about it, because if we talk about it, it brings shame. This same energy moves in and devours us with shame. It feeds on shame. It feeds on denial. It feeds on anger. It feeds especially on dissonance, you know, confusion. It feeds on any negative energy. I think Eckhart Tolle called it the pain body, and there's a world pain body. So there's a general force that works through people who are on a vibration. So if you have a low vibration, or if you have a dissonance or a fear, or you've been injured when you're young, it will find that vibration and just use you as a vessel, and it will work, and it will pick up your natural ki or chi, and it will create mayhem in the world and leave you to pick the shit up. We don't talk about it because we don't understand it, and we're told by this inner subtle voice that if we talk about it, people will hate us, will become lepers, will be kicked out of the tribe. It feels like death. That's what it feels like. So this force is very real. But it's also ordained. When you talk about God, which I talk about a lot, as an omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent force, so it's all things. When we talk about God, we're talking about the fact that it includes everything. It includes good and bad. It includes light and dark. But if we can find this center point, the dantian, if we can find the center point within us where these forces meet, you know, like in the yin yang sign, where you've got the dark and the light, you've got a line down the center. That's the middle point. So if we can find that point, we can blend the two energies, and it's no longer dark and light. But But while we believe in the dark, it will be a dark energy, and it will work through us with any pornography, any excess. You know, from the very basic innocent gossip where we slaughter people over our coffee, you know, to the bits where we get out the car and hoof people's heads in. You know, I used to kick people's teeth out, and then I'd wait for them to come around, and I'd knock them out again, and feel good about it afterwards because I'm fucking. You know, I'm Robin Hood, aren't I?
Yeah.
You know, but you don't realise that this energy is working through your ignorance and coming out, and it's creating karma in a world of causation, and we've got to pick the shit up from that.
Mate, my head's falling off already.
And the worst thing, the worst thing, Paul, the worst thing, this is what upset me, this is the worst thing, is that we don't know it, people like me and you, but our wife is afraid of us. Our children are afraid of us. It broke my heart when I realised that. My friends were afraid of me. They were all buying me drinks, and like drinks on the bar like winners' cups, patting me on the back because I just kicked someone's teeth out. And they said, it's okay, he's a bully. So it doesn't matter. And you realise later, you don't realise at the time because you're looking through the eyes of an engorged ego. And this energy is inside you, and you've got no autonomy. You've got no, you know, because anytime anybody kicks off or slights you, you just lamp them. So you start to realise that that your wife's afraid of you. And that's, it's heartbreaking.
That's a very,
it's heartbreaking.
And that's a very real thing. I'm thinking about it now, and I'm like, I think I have an amazing relationship with my wife and kids. And that doesn't mean she might not be physically scared of you. My wife, for example, 2014, I was suicidal. She probably has a fear at some level that I'm going to end up back there. In fact, I can say with 100% certainty that she does have that fear.
Yeah, of course she does.
Because she'll notice me doing things with me, like, stop fucking doing that. She'll knows when I haven't meditated. But you need to fucking go meditate now.
If you haven't got autonomy, Paul.
If
you don't know who you are. If you don't know who your authentic self is. Of course, she won't trust you. And it might be subtle, but you won't trust you. I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust my own hands in the dark. You know, I abused myself. I sexually abused myself. I abused other people when I thumped them. Well, I didn't just thump them. You know, I was you know, they said I was a knockout merchant, but really I was a bully. You know,
you were a very violent man, right?
I was hugely violent, but I was like I am now. I was sensitive. I was tall. I was skinny. I was balding. I was quite articulate. Everybody in the world wanted to fight me. I remember saying to Sharon, Coventry's so violent. Everywhere I go, there's there's violence. And she said, Geoff, there's a common denominator. It's everywhere you go.
And you know, this is I say this to a lot of people as well. I think that's the case with, we get a lot of people complaining about negative people. And I'm like, listen, not every, and then you've got this whole personal development, cut all the toxic people out of your life. I'm like, there's a common denominator here, and that's you, isn't it?
Have a look around you. What is it that surrounds you? If you're surrounded by damage, it's just an immediate projection from your own centre. Some immediate projection of your perceptions, your cognitions, your your precepts, your rules, your conceptualization. I mean, all the energy basically is neutral until we give it a concept. When we give it a concept, it creates a form. When it creates a form as an aspect, so it's like this person is violent, which means he's dangerous and means he's a threat to me. So you've given a neutral energy, form, and aspect. But if I'm able to stay in my very centre, if I'm able to stay in the centre, I'm able to dissolve that concept, and it's no longer a violent person. It's just an unstable energy that I can take in and create an article with it, or I can do a talk, or I can just sit there and let it disappear into the magic bowl. This is in Japanese Aikido, they call this the magic bowl. You often hear about the Buddha belly, but they talk about the magic bowl, which is here, which is the centre, the dantian. It's just under the navel. So this is like our singularity. This is the very centre of our own mandala, of our own reality. So everything that we have that comes out of it, all your prolific and impressive workload will come from that centre, from here. When I punched, it's like, boom, there. When I punched...
It's funny that, because that's where you experience things like anxiety there as well. And you experience excitement there.
The Christ resides there. The Christ energy. So if you think about Christ less as a person and more as an energy, So the Christ energy resides there. I have actually seen it. I physically saw it in a sound bath. When it rose out of I didn't know what it was at the time.
Yeah.
It rose out of my...
In a what, did he say,
In a
Geoff?
sound bath. I had a sound bath.
What does that mean?
Basically, you lie down and you have a shaman will do lots of specific sounds, drums.
Oh,
rattles.
I've done one where it was like a gong thing.
Yeah.
And it was a meditation and this gong kept going off.
Yeah,
And it was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, well, the sound moves stuff in you. It breaks any obscurations off their moorings, and you were able to see them, the good and the bad. But I was in this sound meditation. I was lying there. Had a few things happen to me, but Christ rose out of my stomach with the crown of thorns, everything, and he rose up and he just looked at me like that, and then he went back down again. But he had to come out of quite a lot of fat, quite a lot of bile, quite a lot of negativity that was stored there.
Yeah.
And of course, it was an allegory again. I don't see Christ as a person.
I was just going to say, are you a religious man, Geoff?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, but do you know what religion means?
You believe in all religions, I think, right?
Well, religion just means to be aligned. It just comes from the word religare. It means to be aligned. You're religious. You are aligned to serving people. So you're religious. What we mix up religion and dogma. Dogma is when we say, this is the only way to get to this energy.
Yes.
Religion says if I put a plug in the wall and connect to the mains electric, that line and that plug is religious. It's aligned. So we need to be aligned. So if my thoughts and my words and my deeds are aligned to goodness, then I'm religious. If my thoughts and words and deeds are aligned to hatred, like Hitler or Stalin, then I'm religious as well, but I'm religious from a dark place. Yeah. So religion, the core word means reconnect, religare. Yeah. So
it's almost that religion, all these different perceived religions, if you like, are just a way, but they try and say that they're the way. Is that what you're saying?
But everyone...
This is the way.
Everyone I've studied said, of course, this is the only way. Yes. The others are all wrong.
Yeah.
But when you've hit a peak moment... When you've had an expansion of consciousness, of course, that's nonsense, because when you're there, a Buddha, a Krishna, a Christ, a Muhammad, they're no different from each other. They're all of those are conceptualized forms that enable cultures to access a natural energy that's everywhere. And it's in every mote. Every mote of dust has consciousness. Every cell in the body, and there are trillions, have consciousness. They are beings. Not just as in, it's a living cell. They are beings. They are conscious beings. I've seen this as well. I was shown this in an epiphany where I saw everything. Everything was a living being, and it was in me. My shower cubicle, the water coming from the shower, the taps, my mobile phone, the house. Everything is built from the same cells as me. And everything has consciousness. So even this will speak to me if I want to find consciousness through this word. It's built of the same things as I am, but it's actually full of consciousness. And they are all at this moment in time. This room, this mic, this whole infrastructure has formed itself for us to do this talk, because we want to do a talk that will serve kids who are struggling, who think there's no potential. Fucking hell, if they knew the potential, their mind would be blown. You only have to look at the night sky and see the potential. It's infinite. You think when you get one little idea, Paul, one idea.
I was just going to say about the shower and that consciousness thing. I was reading something the other week that said, anybody that's ever had, you called it an epiphany, all these geniuses of the world, it's always happened when they've been in the shower, taking a shit, not looking for it, and it just comes to them.
Very true.
Yeah.
We do a lot of work. We do a lot of work to prepare the vessel to receive the energy, but there's no guarantee that will be a vessel. There's no guarantee. It's a happy accident.
So this potential thing then. We were funny enough last night. What did we see last night? That blew my head off. I'm 40 years old and I'm driving to Coventry on a Wednesday night. It's pissing down. And he said, look, you can see Jupiter and Mercury and that. I was like, that's the first time in my life that I've seen that. And suddenly I'm like, I thought it was a plane because we're coming past Birmingham Airport all the time. East Midlands Airport. I was like, that's a plane. It's like, no, it's a planet. I was like, wow. And I'm 40 years old. So for me to just see that now, I'm like,
but where is it though, Paul? It's in you. That's the thing. When you have moments of clarity or epiphanies, I remember sitting in Leicester Square after I'd done a very hard series of mentoring sessions for these, a friend of mine runs a kind of a huge conglomerate, and he wanted me to mentor all of his CEOs, and they were all kind of 7-figure companies, all of these satellite companies. So they're all smart guys. They'd all worked in government or they'd worked at high end in the military. So they're all smart. So it was, you have to really be centered and be on your top game. So I did these mentoring sessions. I was doing 3 a day with all of these guys, and it was amazing. But I sat in Leicester Square after one of them, and I looked up at the sun, and I knew the sun wasn't the sun. I just looked at it, and my wife always says, "Don't tell the sun story. no one will understand." But I looked at the sun, and it was a being. It was conscious. It was feeding me, and it was aware of me, and it was communicating with me. Then later on, as I expanded again, I realised that the sun was a part of me. So I'm not walking through Coventry, I'm walking through parts of myself. Everything is in us. So the stars that we look at, the planets, they're all inside of us. This is the universe here. It's not separate from that out there. So we talk about the corporeal and the incorporeal, the present and the visible and the invisible, but they're really all the same. If Alex walks out of the room here, he only has to walk 2 seconds and he's invisible to us. He's gone. He's not here. This wall's blocking him. You can't see him anymore. So he's not here. And if he walks back in again, he's visible again. So for a second, he's incorporeal. So lots of the great shamans recognize that my teachers come some in physical form, some in non-physical form, but they're really both the same because it's still exactly the same. They I still turn up somewhere and they're just suddenly there and then they're suddenly not there. So when I used to do my talks at Coombe, I'd say, have a look at this building, have a look at this splendid monastery. It used to be a monastery. This is here. I said, you've manifested it today for this talk. You've manifested me. You've manifested this teacher. This place is full of history. I said, for me, it's here every day because I turn up here every day and I walk around here and I've made it my life so I can access all of this anytime I want. These rooms are always here. What Carlos Castaneda called the 100 rooms. Your reality consists of 100 rooms. And you can access all of them if you train with me. We're only living in one of them. We can get out of the house. So we go to somewhere like Coombe Abbey and we manifest this amazing building and we do this talk and then we have like a cream tea or something.
A cream tea?
Yeah. And
wow, we're definitely in the Midlands.
And it's like it's like luxury and you've got people waiting on you. Yeah. And we do the talk in a chapel and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And what do I need to do to get that? How do I make that happen? I just know it's available. So I turn up. I have to use specific things. I have to use sound. I have to use symbols to create that. So you might call that money, but it's just sound and symbols. So I use my voice. I use magic sound to create service, to create food. And if you get good at that, you can make that happen more and more and more. And then as you get better and better at it, you don't even have to have the numbers in your bank. You don't even have to have the card with the magic numbers on. You can just need something and it will start to appear. I'm talking about at a more advanced level, but things, well, I say at a more advanced level, it's happening already. We're here today. We've got this hotel, we've got this room, we've got this space. This has been created for you and me to give our message. That's what it's created for, just to serve. We can create to do negative things as well, but that's quite a shit way to live. I know for me, when I was a bouncer, I created prolifically, but it was all violent. I created the infrastructure, I created the people and the legions of people, enemies that would turn up at Buster's nightclub who wanted to fight me specifically because I had a shit magnet in me and I drew all the shit from the city.
So we've came to an amazing place because I wanted to rewind, but you've done it anyway, which is, we talked about the violence was everywhere you went.
Yeah.
I talked about, for some people, negativity is everywhere they go.
Yeah.
How do you shift that?
Well, you've got to recognise you're the one creating it first. If we don't recognise that we're creating it, if it's your fault, Paul, it means you're my master. It means I've got to, even if I say I hate you, I've got to wait for you to fix it before it's fixed. Paul's the problem. Paul's bringing negativity into my life, and I've got to wait for Paul to fix it. But when I realise that it's from me,
Yes.
I'm the projector, and it's all coming through my filters. And if I want to fix the picture on the screen, I just need to come back to the film. The film is full of colours and it's full of perceptions and cognitions. I can change that. If you was at the cinema and you're looking at a film,
Oh, imagine.
and
Imagine being able to go to the cinema. Holy
luxury.
shit, man. Oh my God. I said last night, everyone's talking about pubs and that.
Yeah.
I drove past the cinema, which is around here, a showcase.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, imagine being able to go see a film.
No, it's amazing, isn't it? If you imagine being at the cinema, sitting in there, and suddenly the screen tilted, or it was flicking, or you're looking at the film generally and going, oh, fucking hell, this is horrible. This is like a porn fest of violence.
Yeah.
You don't want it. You wouldn't go to the screen and start to try and adjust it, would you? You'd have to go back to the projector. You wouldn't blame the projector either. You'd have to look at the film going through the projector.
Yeah.
You wouldn't blame the light coming through the projector because it's just pure.
Yeah.
You would look at it and go, well, if I don't like what's on the screen, I need to change what's in the projector.
Yeah.
So what people do in their life is they go, everything's wrong and it's not my fault, and they wait for someone to fix it. They wait for their family to fix it. They wait for the government to fix it. That's why there's so many conspiracies, because everybody wants someone to blame. But if you want to fix it, you've got to recognise all of it comes from
And you can't fix it by... I think I was talking to you about this before, because this is the transition that I feel like I'm going through. You've got the people that are the to me people who are trying to point the blame at other people. And then you've got the people like me, and I've been like this for a long, long time, which is trying to force the film to change or force the projector to, if I hit it hard enough, maybe I'll be able to bend it into shape.
Roll the sleeves up, go out and fix the world.
Yeah, I'm going to bend this into shape so it fits what I want it to look like.
Yeah.
That's what most people, I think you've got the to me people who are what I call the victim, and then we've got the achievers, which are the go, I'm going to bend this into shape. What's this next level that you're about to drop on me?
You've got the masses, which in Judaism they would say that's the vegetable realm. Yeah. Then you've got the more elite, which is like the animal realm, which is the entrepreneurs, the people that go out and do things in the world. Then you've got what they call the human realm, where we rise above personal ambition and we recognise there is a dharma, there is a law. There is a specific thing for us to do in the world, and we go out and we start to serve where we're intuited to serve, not where we want to serve because I want more followers, because I want to earn more money. Yes, that's the animal reign. That's the animal realm, and that's better than the masses. Because in the masses, everybody's just herded specifically by fear and desire. The government or the television will click their fingers with something either violent or erotic or with fear generally, and they will herd people in the direction they want them to go. That's the masses. The masses will kick and scream and shout and blame and do marches, but nothing will change. The people in the animal realm will have a bit of a wider expanse and think, I can do this myself. This guy's doing this in this business.
I'm going to make it happen.
I could do that myself. I could make that happen. But it's still from a selfish place. It's still from a place of, this is for me, this is for my family, this is for what I want to achieve. But once you get to the level where you start to see that as being very small, so selfishness is always going to be very small, and it's always going to be, it's never really going to gratify you, because the more you get, the more you want. You can get 100 likes and one negative comment will fucking wipe you out. So you rise above.
Or you want to wipe them out.
You want to wipe them out, So they're still your masters, because one slight, we think we're masters of ourselves, but one slight and somebody steals a day off us. Anxiety, So we've got to get to the level where we don't really care what people think of us. We don't look for what people think about us. We don't look to achieve for ourselves. We want to expand beyond that. So this is when we go from the exoteric, which is the external, to the esoteric, which is the hidden. So we're no longer looking at the revealed books and the revealed world. We're looking at the hidden world. But to do that, you need to be personally aligned. You need to be congruent. Your thinking, your saying, and your doing need to be in alignment with good. So the Paul I see here needs to be the same Paul, that's at home with his wife, that walks past like a rough sleeper that, sees Donald Trump on the television. It needs to be the same person. If your emotions are reacting all over the place, with all of this different stimuli, and you can't keep that congruent self, then the world and the things in the world, the 10,000 things, are still our masters. So we first have to master ourselves. We have to master the sensual body, the physical body, the sensual body, the psychological body, the physiological body. That automatically spills into the sociological. So when we start to get control of our nervous system, our endocrine system, we no longer react to anger, we no longer react to judgment, we no longer kick off every time somebody gives us a bit of stimulus. And we start to just look at things objectively. The Buddha would call this denotation. We take all the labels off everything. Everything is just energy with the potential, to achieve something.
Mate, this vegetable, animal, human, this has blown me head off, because I said to you before, this is aligning for me, because this is the phase of my life I'm going through. I've got vegetable. Now I feel like a fucking... What are those men that have like the mythical creatures where it's a men's upper body and then he has a horse for a lower body? That's me right now. Centaur, is it a centaur, a minotaur or something? I'm one of them right now. And you've already mentioned this awareness thing, but if we could make it more practical, I'm a practical man still. How does somebody move from what you'd call vegetable, or I'd call them the to me, this victim mentality, it's everybody else's fault, it's the government's fault. How does somebody move from that into the next phase, which is the animal phase, you say?
Well, anyone that's an entrepreneur, anyone that's making money, anyone
has already done that.
They're already in the animal realm. They're already doing it. So the animal realm is good because we're creating with it, but it's still from a selfish place.
Would you say that step there is about taking personal responsibility then?
Well, we've taken responsibility and we are creating in the world. But there's a good chance that we're still doing it from an egoic place. So the ego is still 100%,
mate. That's me.
Yeah. So if the ego's still in charge, then we've got a child running this multi-trillion pound company. This body is it's like a trillion pound instrument. It's an amazing instrument. So we can't have it ran by a negative ego. So we have to win that back. That's what waking up means. Waking up is like when we wake up and we go, fucking hell, this is only my eyes. This is just me looking at this body. I've got this potential. But we wake up in this kingdom. This is a kingdom. But we realise that it's not run by us. It's been overrun by beliefs, by cognitions, by dogma. It's overrun by what I heard on the news yesterday. It's overrun by the fact that I was abused when I was a kid. It's overrun by the way my parents treated me. They are running this ship. So I need to win that back. How do I win it back? I first have to win it back by recognising that, I think they call it apophatic theology. And this is the idea, it sounds fancy, but it really just means we're finding God through negation, or we're finding our authentic self via negation. So we get rid of who we're not. So I'll come to the practical point of it, which is we don't know who we are, but we do know who we're not. I don't want my wife to be afraid of me. I don't want people to be afraid of me. I don't want to be jealous or angry or envious. I don't want to be judgmental. It's all a fucking waste of my energy. But I am all of those things. So if I can see them all of those things.
So you understand that you've got those traits
but I can stop trading with them. I can stop dealing with them. I can just go, when it rises up to engage me and I go judgment, I go, no, I'm not doing that anymore. Because that doesn't serve me. Because I'm not congruent when I do that. I have no control. So I just think there's a little puppet master working me every time I react to that. Every time I go, who's this guy on the television? Or every time I go, sit and slaughter somebody over a coffee, character assassination. Every time I do that, I've fallen out of alignment. When we fall out of alignment, this is something Al-Ghazali would say. He was a great Muslim imam. He would say, every time you fall out of center, every time you lose congruent, you disconnect from the mains electric, and you are seen. I love that. You are seen. And the warning in that.
Yeah.
Every time you fall out of alignment, you are seen. This negative force, this theta acra, will rush into your body with a force that you can't stop.
Yeah.
So every time we fall out of alignment, this energy will just naturally fall into us like water rushing into a
and it let you know.
Tile.
It lets you know, right?
You'll feel it, mate. You'll feel it immediately.
Yeah. Do you know what? I've only just discovered this in the last few weeks. I've heard this described as like do you on the motorway when you drift off the motor, when you hit the rumble strip and your car starts vibrating? We did it last night. I was like, Mark, sorry, you just nearly died, mate. But
a good example.
I switched off.
Yeah.
I switched off for a second. I hit the rumble strip and I'm like, fucking hell, I better come back.
Yeah.
So that's what you would recognize these negative kind of emotions as, a rumble strip.
Yeah.
I heard that and I was like, wow, that's
a good example.
Yeah.
But it's worse than the rumble strip because once you reach a certain level, once you reach the human realm and you are there to serve, so they say that the holy dove enters us, which means the Christ energy enters us and it mingles. So the higher soul and the lower soul mingle. Yeah. So we have the soul resident in us. It's there. And again, I've seen the soul. I've been shown the soul. So it is resident in us, but it is very, very touch sensitive. It's very vulnerable to any kind of excess, any kind of...
So it's kind of like, I'm hearing this now. When you get that, you're driving faster on the motorway, so a tiny little touch
anything
would make your car move
anything
faster. Do you know what I'm, you know what I'm saying? That's speed you're moving at.
That's a good allegory, So if you fall out of alignment at all, you will get what I call a divine shock.
Yeah.
And it might be a rush of anxiety.
Yes.
It might be a rush of terror.
Yes.
It might be a rush of conscience, but it will be too painful to bear. And this is this force coming in and saying you're out of alignment. You can't be out of alignment. You have the soul in you. You're protecting the soul, and this will burn the soul out. This will rush in like air rushing into a light bulb that will just burn the element out, the filament out immediately. So the soul is like a tungsten filament that connects the negative and the positive terminals of a light bulb. So when you look at a light bulb, you've got the very thin line of filament made of tungsten. Yeah. It connects the positive and the negative and creates light. But it's in a vacuum. It's in a vacuum state. It's inside the bulb. If the vacuum breaks and the air comes in, the filament just pops. Yeah. Because the melting point it can't mix with oxygen. Yeah. So what I love about that is the fact that, first of all, we have to keep the vacuum state. The vacuum state is when we get rid of anything in us that is not negative, that is not positive. Anything in us that's not kind. Anything in us that's not anabolic, that builds, that's coming from a place of service. So we get rid of all that. Once we've got rid of it, that's what they say in the Christian.
How do we get rid of it?
Well, if you once you kick out a demon, he'll come back with 10. So... And that's good for us because these demons, although we don't like them, they stop us from falling out of alignment because we're invisible to them. If we fall out of alignment,
what does a demon look like in?
You've seen it in allegory. You've seen all the drawings, but actually, if we just think of it as an energy, as the negative terminal, it will rush in and it will break everything. It will destroy everything. If you let it inside, well, you've seen what it did to you, which I thought was very brave of you to say, but it took you to a place where you thought, ending my life is a good idea. Yeah. So that's what it will do. It will take you to a place of misery and literally feed off you. Yeah. But again, it's good for you because if you've got the energy on the outside, it's a bit like the wire around an electric cable. Mm-hmm. It's there to stop you from touching raw electricity, which it will kill you. Yeah. But it's not personal. Yeah. You don't see something in the paper going, electricity kills young child, the monster electricity, evil electricity. Yeah. You don't see that. You just say it's a tragic accident. Someone touched a bare wire. Mm-hmm. So this energy is like that. It's massively creative if we can bring it through an aligned and a vacuum or a hermetically sealed vessel. Mm-hmm. We can create beautifully from a place of service. If we fall into ego and ego takes over, and we find ourselves looking to see how many likes we've had, we find ourselves looking for how many followers we've got today, and we find ourselves looking for praise and taking praise, then we slip out of alignment and we'll feel a jolt and we'll be brought back in again. So when we fall out of alignment, we are seen. But equally, when we're in alignment, we are seen by this higher force. This higher force will go, here's Paul Mort. he's done the work, he's put himself into alignment, and you will automatically attract the teachers at the right level, the opportunities at the right level, the circumstances, the infrastructure, the money will all come to you because you have developed the infrastructure to be able to handle it.
Make me emotional here because it's mad. Like, this is exactly where I'm at right now.
Yeah. So you were asking, how do we get rid of the old stuff?
So we looked at vegetable to animal, now animal to
when we go to
human.
Yeah. So the big thing, I'll tell you what I did. I just felt this. First of all, I felt the urge to confess, to get rid of everything I'd done wrong. I mean, if you look at Notes from a Factory Floor, that's basically a confessionary book. It's brutal about myself. It's brutal about what I did. It's completely honest about what I did in my life, how violent I was, how dangerous I was, what a bad father I was, what a bad husband I was. It's not nice to say that, but you got to put it down. Repentance means we're stuck in the wilderness and we want to return to the centre. So repentance means to return. It means to find refuge. So when we repent, we have to retrace our steps. We have to go past all of those dead bodies that we thought were buried and gone. We have to look at them and go, repentance means to go, first of all, I'm going to stop doing the things I've been doing wrong. Then I'm going to bring them to the light. And for me personally, I'm going to write about them and I'm going to confess in front of everybody. So I'm going to bring it to light. So it can no longer blackmail me. It can no longer talk to me and go, if people knew what you've done, if people knew what you were like, I go, well, I'm going to actually.
And that's liberating shit. Like,
yeah,
I'm about to go to this phase now where when this book gets published, they're talking about TV and that, and people are like, you're not scared about anything coming out of your closet or anything like that. I'm like, listen, there's nothing that someone could say about me that I haven't already said, and that feels liberating as fuck. Is that what it feels like for you?
That's what repentance is.
Is it?
Yeah, repentance means I'm out of centre.
Yeah,
I'm suicidal. I'm depressed. Yeah, I'm violent. Whatever it is, I am. Yeah, I'm way out of centre.
Yeah,
and I don't want to come back to the centre. So to come back to the centre, I've got to clean up all the stuff, all the mess I've made. If I want to walk back to the centre, I have to.
How do we do that?
As we said, by owning it, by admitting it, by confessing it.
By getting it out.
By getting it out. From getting it out.
And it doesn't have to be to, like me and you, to thousands of fucking people.
No. It doesn't. Everyone will, once you start to align to your centre, once you connect, once you wake up and you think, I need to change, you will automatically connect to your own divine sat-nav, to your own blueprint, and it will go, oh, this is Paul Mort, this is where he is, this is where he wants to be, this is the pace he can work at. It will know exactly what you need to do, when you need to do. All you need to do then is follow the instruction. First of all, repentance means to stop doing the things we've been doing, and it means to admit them, not to make excuses. When I wrote Fragile, the things I wrote in my play Fragile, which I brought you a copy of today because I had a feeling it might be good for where you are, but the play Fragile was confessing in front of an audience to all of the things that were blackmailing me and filling me with shame and feeding off me like a parasite every single day. So I was bringing them out, I was owning them, and I was putting them in front of an audience and saying, I dare you to judge me. That's what I did. And it was...
Holy shit.
God, it nearly fucking killed me. it nearly did. And you know what the worst thing was? I wasn't really too bothered about people, the shame of other people. I was just... What came out of it for me was I was terrified of bringing shame to my mum's door. Because that's how I've been brought up, Catholic, Irish. Don't bring shame to this door. We're more afraid of shame than an assassin's bullet. So I have to look at that. I have to be prepared, like Arjuna at the Battle of Gur, etc. When he looks out into the battlefields and he says, I can't do this. I can't fight to win my kingdom back because I can see my brothers in the ranks. I can see my cousins.
They might get caught in the crossfire.
I can see my teachers. Some of them are on the opposite side to me. In other words, we have to be prepared to kill the teaching of all of our peers. We have to kill everything that we've been taught that is wrong. We have to dismiss it. And like we said before, you only have to give up alcohol, and you'll lose 95% of your social circle. You only have to stop gossiping, you'll lose the other 5%. So it's
bang on.
Yeah. So the reason we don't change, the reason we keep engaging these things, is because we have this tremendous fear of being kicked out of the tribe, especially if you come from a class system, which I did.
Yeah.
And the class system, people throw the class system around like it's nothing. I've lost 3 friends to suicide because they were afraid to challenge class. Class is a perception. It's an idea. Believe me, I've been in the company of royalty. I've been in the company of multi-millionaires, billionaires, you know, high-end celebrities, and
me.
Same thing. And it's none of it means anything. It's a perception.
Yeah.
So when we have a perception of higher and lower, of object and subject, of you know, I'm a working class piece of shit and he's a middle class. You know, I need to bow down to him. You know, when we let go of those conceptualizations, they don't exist anymore. So the idea of class doesn't exist unless we allow it to live in us as a concept.
Yeah.
So, but in order to do that, we need to challenge all of the things that are in us, all of the beliefs that are wrong. We need to challenge them. So if I go towards, say, becoming a published author and I feel tremendous fear, I need to have the courage to intercourse with that fear, and I need to absorb 99% of it before it will give up the ghost. When it does, it dissipates.
What does that look like from a practical point of view then? Is that just doing the work?
Doing the work.
Yeah.
That's what I always say, which Alex, our friend Alex always says, to remind me to do the work.
Yeah.
It's all about doing the work, and the work is all about getting rid of what isn't serving you, and not bringing in what does serve you, but just allowing room for what is already there.
Do you think that most people, Geoff, know, whatever the situation, whether they want to change their mental health, their mindset, the financial situation, their relationship, do you think people know what to do? They're just not doing it?
I think people have so many ideas rushing in. At the back of it, everybody knows everything.
Yeah.
That's one thing. Everybody knows everything. We all sit around with people and everybody's wearing masks, and that's not the bad thing. The bad thing is that everybody knows everyone's wearing masks. So when you come into a room and you're not wearing a mask, it's fucking liberating. It's intoxicating.
Yes.
Because people go, I love this person because there's a congruence. There's no agenda. They're not after something. And I've been all those things. I've been the guy that's after stuff. I've been the guy that's, you know, looking for coattails. I've been the guy that's looking for followers and celebrity. And it's part of the animal realm. It's not something I'm embarrassed by. It's just, you know, it was just my green belt phase, you know. So I've been all those things, so I understand it. But the power is when you're not looking for anything, when you're just there to serve.
Yeah.
You can only do that if you're aligned. You can only be aligned if you do the work. Practically, that might mean, okay, when I take sexual pornography into my body, I'm allowing vampires to come across the threshold. They take over my autonomy, and obviously the body will receive pleasure, but they control me. So I'm allowing parasites to come and live in my body for what is a few seconds of squirty liquid. You know what I mean?
Mate, yeah, I've got to share this with you because I want to get onto this concept. I'm fascinated when you talk about this concept of palate.
Yeah.
And Mr. Alex Myers, who's sitting here with us today, once said to me something that I think you got from you when he said, if you can't stop, you're addicted. And I didn't masturbate for like 4 or 5 months. Yeah. Which was, my wife hated it. She was like, can you not just have a wank? Because I was walking around. I was 38 years old with a permanent boner. Yeah, it was weird. But yeah, this let's get on to this.
Controlling the sensual body, It's not so much just about the act of masturbation. Yeah. It's about whether you've got control of that or not. When I was addicted to sexual pornography, I'd be running to the computer and I'd be doing it in secret and I'd be doing it behind people's back. Yeah. And I would be doing things to my body that I didn't recognize as myself. Yeah. I'd be abusing myself with it because I was damaged as a kid. Yeah. So I had a proclivity towards sexual pornography. But I had no control of it and I knew that. Yeah. I don't know if I told you this story, but I once spoke to God. And I would see God as my highest potential. And I said to him, listen, I've got this sexual pornography and it doesn't feel like it's doing any harm. I said, can you give me a sign? I'm sat in my garden, I've just trained. I said, can you give me a sign? Because if you tell me it's not right, I'm just going to kill it. But at the moment, I'd let go of it, but I felt convinced that it was okay. Yeah. And I sat there and I just finished an orange juice and I put my glass down. And suddenly this wasp came flying over and it landed on the rim of my my glass.
Me, I thought you were going to say the rim of something else, but I'm thinking, well, that is a sign.
That's a sign.
That is a sign.
Even the wasps are after you.
And
it started to eat some of the residue from the and then it just flew away again.
Yeah.
Then it come back again.
Yeah.
And then it went a bit deeper into the glass. Then it flew away. And then it come back. And it did this. This is true. It did this about 5 times until in the end it was complacent and arrogant. And it went to the bottom of the glass. And there was a thick residue of orange juice in the bottom. And it sat in it and took everything it could. And it couldn't get out. Couldn't fly. It was stuck in the shit. It was stuck in the orange juice. It was marinating in the thing that was giving it pleasure. And I just tipped it out, let him go, and I said to God, thank you.
Yeah.
I won't do it again. But of course I did.
Yeah.
I did until it fucking floored me, until I was leveled by it.
Yeah.
I had the last time I accessed sexual pornography was what time is it now? It's many years.
It's 5 to 10.
It was many years ago. But the last time I'd already triggered into the human realm.
Yeah.
The soul was present. Yeah. And I accessed pornography at a very vulnerable time, and I'm not kidding. It fucking killed me. It wiped me out. I was on my knees.
Yeah.
This rush of energy came into me, and I was on my knees crying. I was begging. I was so tortured. And I went into meditation. I went straight home. I confessed to my wife, because one of the things you do when you fall out of alignment is you find a confessor, somebody so that it can't keep blackmailing you. But it took me a month to get that out of me.
Yeah.
And I never let it back in again.
Shit.
I never ever let it back in again. It was saying it's not, this is so acceptable in society. But if you're talking about growing to the levels of consciousness, you can't have these parasites. Because if everything is spirit, which it is, if everything is conscious, some of it's going to be positive and some of it's going to be negative. So when I let energy through my eyes, through my ears, through my food, if I let energy in through my body, if that's negative energy, I'm inviting negative spirits into my body. And if you look at spirit, the word spirit comes from the word pneuma, or it comes from the word ki or chi, comes from the words soul. It comes originally from the word psyche. So Freud would use the word, or Jung would use the word psyche. So there's lots of different words for it. But once we allow this across the threshold, it's inside us and it's taken up residence. It can't come across the threshold unless we allow it to. Yeah. Once we allow it to, it takes up residence, has little locations, little hubs, and then every time this larger energy wants to feed from us, it just finds the hub, it finds the vibration, boom, it comes in, and we have lost our autonomy. We've lost our will. So if you look at the Old Testament, it talks all the time about seek the kingdom, seek the promised land, seek the land of milk and honey, and this is all about, it talks all the time about find the kingdom. If you find the kingdom, all good things will come to you. And the word land, in the root word land, it comes from the word will. It means will. So it's not saying this mythical kingdom. It's saying this is the kingdom, but you have no autonomy over it because you've lost your will to an addiction, to a belief, to a perception, to a cognition. Yeah. So it's saying find the will. Yeah. When you find your will and you connect to your will and you master your will, so the land is the will, that is the kingdom. Once you've connected to your own personal will, and you can say that you have control of your sensual body and your physical body, you have control of your will, you will automatically link up with this higher soul, and it will come in, and then you have this cooperation between the lower and the higher, between the internal and the external, between the exoteric and the esoteric. So, but we have to get our own will first. We can fuck about all day long if we want, and we can say we've hit the peak of Everest. Yeah. But if we're still wandering around, the base camp, we're at base camp. Yeah. And base camp.
So your example of base camp would be behaviors. Behaviors. Yeah. And again, this concept of palette, I think, will resonate for a lot of the guys listening in, which is your thing of your eyes are your palette. Yeah. Even your nose is your palette, your ears are your palette, your mouth's your palette. Yeah. And that everything that we take in via the palette impacts everything else, right?
Everything, yeah. Yeah. It's when you look at the allegory of the vampire,
Yeah.
You know, all of this horror films and the mythologies are all just allegories.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the vampire can't enter our house unless we give it permission. It cannot cross the threshold without permission from us. It has to ask for permission.
How do we stop giving it permission?
We know.
I mean, it could be as simple as just saying no.
Yeah.
But it's not for a lot of people, is it?
So if first of all you see it, right? First of all you see it, you go, okay.
You recognise it as a problem.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is that we're in denial. My brother and my sister died from alcoholism. That was what's on their death certificates. But that's not what they died of.
Yeah.
They died from denial. Yeah. Both of them couldn't accept that they had an addiction. So how can you do something with something that you can't even admit?
Yeah.
So if you're still saying violence is acceptable, why would you stop it?
Yeah.
Why are you going to stop it? If you think sexual pornography is acceptable, it's not a moral thing. It's just an invasion thing. It's a possession thing. So if we think it's acceptable, we're not going to stop it. But once you start going, well, actually, when I do this, I'm allowing negative spirit into my body, and it takes over my will, takes over my autonomy, because I do end up doing things that aren't morally and ethically right, and I do things that I hide from my wife. I do things that I wouldn't want my friends to know about.
Yes.
Even, like I said, sitting at a cafe with a coffee, if we just sat there, you watch how the atmosphere changes if I just put a tape recorder down. So I hope you don't mind. I want to put a tape recorder down because if we end up talking about anybody, I want to be able to take it to them and show them what we've said.
Shit,
everyone will be going, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
And that Paul, he's amazing.
Somebody somewhere's saying that, I'm sure.
So we've got to get the tolerances on ourselves. You know, like we've got to be like you're right, exactly right. It's not easy because what we're asking to do is we're asking to be Olympic level athletes, Olympic level. So the tolerances are, you know, like on the nightclub door, for instance. When I was on the nightclub door, it was a violent environment. The tolerances were like that. Four of my friends were murdered during my time as a bouncer. The tolerances were tight, but that was the only way you developed what was real. The environment was a living, conscious being that said, you're in this environment, and if you listen to me, I'll tell you how to survive. The environment taught me what works. But the environment says to me, you've come on here with all your martial arts. You've come on here with all these techniques, and they won't work here, not in the way you've been taught.
Yes.
It's not that the martial arts are wrong, but the way you've been taught them won't work in this environment.
And no one's tapping.
No one's tapping. No, there's no, there's no referees. There's no orange, at half time.
Yeah, there's no towel going in.
No towel going in.
Yeah.
And you won't be shaking hands at the end of this, because if you knock that guy out, for instance, you've got an enemy for life.
Yes.
You've got an enemy for life, because that guy there is going to remember you. In 20 years' time, you're going to be stood in the Chinese takeaway getting your health food. And that guy is going to be stood next to you, and for him it was going to be yesterday. It's going to be yesterday.
Yeah.
And he will kill you. He will kill you by accident because he's so angry.
And he can't control
he doesn't know who he is. He's got no control of his will. So what we need to ask ourselves is, do I have control of my will? If I haven't got control of my will, then I've got to. If we know we haven't got control of the will, that's great. That means we're woke.
Yeah,
we are awake.
Yeah.
We're like Odysseus, who's come back from the Trojan Wars to his home in Ithaca to find that his kingdom is overrun by vagabonds.
Yeah,
and he's got to win his kingdom back. So he's awake.
Vagabonds is a great word, by the way.
Yeah, he's awake, but he's got to win his kingdom back. So we wake up. Waking up, someone said to me recently, "What does waking up feel like?" I said, "Painful." So much work to do. I am a fucking deviant in places, and I've got to work on that. That's what happened to me when I woke up.
Yeah.
I just looked at myself in the mirror and I saw this fat, overweight, sexually addicted bully. Even bullied my wife. Everyone said I was a nice guy, but everybody knew I wasn't.
Yeah.
Everybody was afraid of me. If I leaned over into my wife in the night, and believe me, I adore this girl, but if I leaned over and I wanted to cuddle and she didn't want to cuddle, it would be slam doors. It would be monosyllables and a cold back in bed. What is that if it's not violence at the first subtle level? It's saying, if you don't have sex with me, I am going to completely withdraw love, and I'm going to slam doors, and I'm going to shatter your nervous system every time I slam a door. And then in the end, you're not having sex with your wife, are you? It's fucking rape. That's what it is, because you're doing it against her will. I know that's not an easy thing to say.
Yeah.
Believe me, it wasn't an easy thing to see.
Yeah.
When you wake up, it's shocking, because first you wake up and you go, the potential it's incredible, the potential for anything, to do anything, to know everything. It's the potential. But then you go, but I've got all of these things that are stopping me. And these things have not just been resident in me in this lifetime, Paul. These things have been resident in me, in my cells, my genetic inheritance. Maybe Krishnamurti said for thousands of years. We're not fighting against, a 60-year-old enemy. We're fighting against a 1,000-year-old enemy who knows every trick to weed himself in and do one thing. He's only after one thing. Your will. He wants to take your will. Your will is your kingdom. If you haven't got your will, you haven't got your kingdom. You can walk around all day, you can have money, you can have material things, but you have no kingdom because you still can't control this machine. Yeah. You know how to work commerce. Yeah. You know how to turn a coin. You know how to get a leggy blonde in bed. You know how to do all that, but you don't have control of this body. You are being worked by 10, 20, 30 different personalities. If you look at someone like Geoff, he would say there's hundreds of personalities in there. Yeah. We have to find the one, and that one is located in your own singularity, in your own, what they call the geometric point, the building place. Everything that comes out of there has potential. Yeah. It has potential to become anything. Any energy that comes out of here. We've proven that in our own small way with the books we make and the talks we do and creating this kind of thing. Yeah. But what I'm not so interested in what goes out. Yeah. I'm interested in what goes in. Yeah. Yeah, that's the palette. Because not even that, at another level. Because obviously we're talking about a point now. If I've got my centre, my palette's right. Yeah. So I'm interested in what goes in. So if this is like a black hole, if this is like a singularity, so I have my own self, I have my own will. What goes out of this? I can create anything I want with it. Yeah. I can find the infrastructure will find me. Yeah. But I'm interested in what goes in. In other words, where I used to be violent with people would trigger an insecurity in me, and I'd go boom, and I would knock them out. So bang, that comes out. Yeah. I've knocked somebody out. But I'm interested in working at the level of Ushaba, where you're able to see a disturbed energy, and you're able to see an unsteady energy, but you're not affected by it, and you're not offended by his slights. Yeah. You're able to stay so still that he is literally disappeared into that hole. Everything that goes in there never comes back out again. I had this experience 3 weeks ago where obviously I'm in a body, I'm in the world, and I'm working on fine tolerances. So of course I'm challenged. Yeah. I'm not going to grow if I'm not challenged. Yeah. If someone isn't tapping me out at least once a day, I'm not growing, am I? Yeah. So this guy had got into my head. It was to do with a property sale. It's nothing to do with violence. Yeah. But I could feel something in me wanting to make a monster out of him. Yeah. And I started to see everything he did. I wasn't engaging it, but I could feel it in my body chemistry. Yes. But when my body chemistry was at the height where this voice was going, this guy's taking you for a cunt. That's what it was saying. Please forgive the language. But that was the language he was using. And I was watching it. I was observing.
You never have to apologise on my show for language. You can't.
So I took him into my meditation. Yes. And I sat with him, and he was there like a gargoyle. I saw him in front of me. Yeah. And I found the centre. I stilled the centre. And then I watched this persona suck off him. It just came straight off him like a suit. And it disappeared into the singularity. And all I had left in front of me was this very lovely, very insecure, very stressed, very ambitious man who was trying to do his best for me, but was intimidated either by me or by his situation. It doesn't really matter. Yeah. And that was it. It never came back again. I was able to disappear the concept by observing it from a single point. I don't know if that makes sense, but in other words, one of the biggest
it does make quite a lot of sense. If I was to strip it back to my level of understanding of this, which is behind you, is that this guy was just trying his best and he's on his own journey. Yeah. And you're not the star of his movie, if you like.
Absolutely, yeah. But that's what wanted to come in. Yeah. They say that the devil crouches at every open doorway, which means every time you go into a new venture, every time you're going into something new and something fresh and building something, there will be negativities at the doorway of that opening that will try and grab you as you go in. Because if they don't grab you as they go in, they'll get dissolved. Anything negative gets dissolved when we go into a wider consciousness. So, in other words, you learn to dissolve violence by doing nothing. That's the highest concept of spiritual practice, is to do nothing. And this is what the Buddha said when one of his students said to him, what does it feel like to find the Buddha nature? And he said, consciousness has freed me from denotation. So in other words, I'm not seeing things with labels anymore.
Yes.
I'm not seeing this as good and bad.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing this as light and dark. I'm not seeing this as right and wrong. I'm just seeing everything as energy with labels. I'm pulling the labels off. So there's a denotation. I'm pulling the labels off.
Yeah.
And I'm just seeing potential. So it's just energy. So it's not petrol that I'm going to set somebody on fire with. It's petrol that I'm going to heat my house with. Yeah. So it's just a difference. It's an energy that we take away the concept of. We take away the concept, so it has no form, it has no aspect. It's just an energy.
Yeah.
But to do that, we have to be able to recognise it, and then once we do that, we are able to. What I basically did was I pulled the mask off this person. I've done it a lot of times. It's difficult to do it when you've got a monster in front of you, but like someone that wants to be violent. But
yes.
But if you've got someone that wants to be violent in front of you, you know that you're already out of alignment. Because he wouldn't be in your stratosphere if you were in alignment. You just wouldn't be able to exist. You're invisible. So if you're in the center, you're not seen.
Yeah.
In the center, everything that's what they call it, home.
Yeah.
Homeostasis.
Yeah.
In physiology, they would call it homeostasis, which is our natural center. So in theology, they would call it home, or homeostasis, or center, the center point. So we've got to find that center point in ourselves. So in order to find the center point, like if I went to Alex to get a physique, he would be able to look at me immediately and look at my diet, and he would know exactly what to get rid of and exactly what to keep. Yep. That's basically all you do.
Yeah.
It's as practical as if you work with somebody as skillful as him at what he does. You just take that same concept of getting rid of everything that's not serving, and strip it down and just have the stuff that is serving. With the exercises, he doesn't fuck about on the periphery of the gym. If you watch the way he trains, he goes in, he finds the burn quickly, he stays in the burn long, and then he knows that the rest and the water and the palate and everything else, what builds the muscle when it's been broken down. You don't go in there and have like 20 minutes chat. We just go, let's not mess about, let's just go straight to the burn, because that's where the growth is. So spiritually, we do, it's no different. It's the same concept. Same as a nightclub. My greatest metaphysical experience was working as a bouncer, because I was guarding the door of a club. How did we guard it? We stopped the shit.
So you see in that club as your mind at the...
That's my mind. And the doorway is here. This is what they call the Plender Gap. The doorway is literally there. In the human physiology, the doorway to the heart, or the doorway to the will, they call it the doorway to the heart, but it means the will, is here. This is what they call the Plender Gap. So if you've ever had a huge arousal of energy, especially with sexual energy, because it's so visceral, or violent energy, if you watch it, before you engage it, before you actually identify with it and bring it in and accept it, it builds up. It might come in from any part of your body, but it builds up, and it builds up to this point here, and it stacks behind it. That is actually a literal doorway. So if we can keep our consciousness on the doorway here, we can look at it and go, do I want to let that in? No, he's got the wrong clothes on. He's drunk. He's violent. He's got a reputation. He's been barred. They don't let him in. You have to have the courage to stop it at the door. So reality exists at the level of engagement. If I engage that energy when it rises up, it will incarnate me. And for the moment that it's incarnating me, or the week, or the year, or the life, if it's a violent energy, the moment it incarnates me and I engage it and I give it permission to come across the threshold, I am violent. And of course, as that violent person, I will go out and create things in the world of causation that will come back to me as reciprocity. As
so the same with this, mate. I love that club frame, because it makes a lot of sense to me as a description or an analogy, in that you've got to be aware of who's allowed in and who isn't allowed in,
and have the courage to stop them.
Who's on the VIP list.
And
I think a lot of people don't even know that.
No.
They don't know. They might have an idea of what they don't, who they don't want in.
Yeah.
But they never really know about the VIP
You got
section.
to know it. I mean, we worked at a place called Buster's, and it was like you could start a fight in an empty room. It was a violent place.
Yeah.
But it was a powerful team.
Yeah.
I was on there with, I would say, the top team. The reason they were top team in the city, not just because they could have a fight, but because none of them were drug dealers, none of them were criminals. These were all guys that worked in factories in the day, and they were all titans. So they all had a good moral and ethical standing.
Yeah.
But it was an amazing team. But we didn't have 3 or 4 doors to the club. We closed all the other doors. We just had one door. Everybody was forced to come through one door.
Yeah.
That one door is here.
Yeah.
So if we know that's the door to guard, we might get an arousal in our lower area. We might get a spike in our brain.
Yeah.
But before it's engaged, it has to come through. The Plender Gap here.
Yeah. So what are you let in through there then? Is you personally?
That's what my reality is. My reality consists of what I engage. Reality exists at the level of engagement. If I don't engage it has no reality.
Yeah.
An event, he might keep coming to the door. I might get a guy at the nightclub who keeps coming to the door, but if I don't let him in, if I'm brave enough to not let him in, and I'm wise enough to give up, eventually just go off, because there's plenty of clubs that will let him in. You don't have to fight too hard. There's a club down the road that will welcome him.
Yeah.
So this is all the stuff I've learned from, I learned all this on the door, but I didn't really understand it till I studied, not just religion, but I'm not talking about the revealed books, the ones you pick up.
Yes.
I'm talking about the hidden books.
Yeah.
So if you pick up the Bible and you read the Old Testament, the 5 books of Moses, they call it the Pentateuch, that's a blueprint to the universe. But you're not going to get that from reading the 5 books of Moses. You have to go into the exegesis. You have to go into the commentary. So from the Old Testament, from the 5 books of Moses, I went into Swedenborg. And he did 13 books just on Genesis. I went into the Kabbalah, which is all about the hidden aspects of the Old Testament. I went into the Zohar, which is a 24-volume study. It's a lifetime study on the explanation of the Torah. And within those books, they decimate the ego. You pick up the Zohar, and at the beginning it gives you a warning. You won't understand a word of this. The idea that you shouldn't understand a word of this, because it's here to destroy the ego.
Yeah.
It's here to consume the ego. That's what they call the burnt sacrifice, or the animal sacrifice. So when we sit down and do a big study, and the ego's going, I don't understand any of this, and it's killing it, we know the ego is burnt up in the volition of the study. Just like a muscle is burnt up, or the fat is burnt up in the volition of a curl. Yeah. So when you sit and do that study, you have to go into it not expecting to understand it, but recognizing that at a soul level, it reads it like a barcode. Yeah. And that was my experience. Yeah. But to do that, I read probably 6 months full time. I mean, I'm on about as a job. Read it for 6 months full time. Took 70 pages of notes. And then when I finished, and every day, believe me, every single day, I was up at 5. Every day I sat down. The resistance to not read, the resistance to say, this is shit. This makes no sense. Yes. This is nonsense. Yeah. Every single day, the resistance not to study was harder than anything I've ever done. And at the end of every day, and I'm not exaggerating, at the end of every day, if I did a half an hour more reading than I normally do, because I want to get it finished, I felt I felt like my sanity could tip. Really? Yeah, I felt like I could. I felt insane. I felt an unstable insanity there. But I knew enough from the reading to know that the part that feels insane, the part that feels threatened, the part that feels in pain, and at times I would have a voice that would scream, literally scream. And I recognised that they were all of the parts of me that were being burnt up. They were the animal sacrifice that I was removing from me in order to reveal the consciousness that was already there. So all of that. So I'm not looking. If you look at the Bible, you go, the first house ghost, the very first house ghost is like fucking Bibles. all the wars in the world are started by religion. So why am I going to read that? Oh, the Bhagavad Gita. There's a blue guy on the cover, in a flying ship.
I tried to read this book twice.
Yeah,
I've tried to read it, and I'm like, I don't get this.
But that's good.
Yeah.
But you're not supposed to get it.
Yeah.
You're supposed to have the discipline to sit down.
And that's when you should stay with it, is what you're saying.
Stay with it, yeah. You just got to recognise that at some level, something in you will be burnt up in the volition of reading it, which will create consciousness. When you create consciousness, you will understand a little bit of it.
Yeah.
So I did 70 pages of notes, and then I went on to the notes, and I reduced the notes until I ended up with 30 pages, then reduced the 30 to 10, reduced the 10 to 5, reduced the 5 to 1. Eventually I reduced it to one word. I reduced 24 volumes of the Zohar to one word. And that was very specific to me. And that one word was a seed. In Judaism, they would call it hokmah, which means a seed. It's a spark of wisdom. You go, an idea. But that seed is just an idea. It needs to be unpacked. It's like the seed of an acorn. It's only, if you see an acorn, it's about that big, and the seed inside it's about that big. But within that acorn, there is the potential for a 200-foot, 500-year-old tree. So within that acorn, I need to take that seed, and put it into a process of development or unfolding. They call it bina. So I unfold it until it becomes a certainty.
Yeah.
So what I mean, so I get a flash of an idea. I spend the next year studying it and unfolding it and get an understanding of it until suddenly it clicks and I go, that's what it meant.
Yeah.
It means that. And then that becomes the seed of the next study.
Yeah.
So if you imagine the seed of an acorn, within that there's the potential for the whole tree, and in its lifetime 1 million acorns. So that one tiny seed, which is almost infinitesimal, has the potential to create 1 million other seeds. Just that one seed.
And then those seeds
have, each of those million have the potential to create another. In other words, the ability to learn and to expand is infinite. But we have to have the discipline, the will, to be able to sit down and go, all of the parts of me that don't want to do the work, that don't want to sit down, that don't want to read, that don't want to get up at 4:30 to meditate, all of those parts of me, I'm in control of them. My animal soul is not in control. It's subservient to the higher self. So I have control of my will. If I've got control of my will, I can take that seed and I can unpack it. For instance, watch my back. It was a seed. It was an idea. Yeah. And the seed came as a reward because I stood on a nightclub door and people tried to kill me. Yeah. And some of them were big girls. Some of them were big girls as well. But that was a seed of an idea. Someone said, you should write these stories down. You're telling it this good. It was a seed. Yeah. So that had to be unpacked. But that was 30 years ago. And since I unpacked that one tiny seed, which started by writing the first book in a toilet, in a factory, it's 50 books, it's 15 films. I've just done a film in America with Orlando Bloom.
Oh, shit.
And
that book got turned into a movie itself, right?
Well, it's been turned into... I think I've had 4 films made about my life so far, all come from that seed, all of them.
Shit.
And, thousands of articles, thousands of talks, and an amazing life. I ended up in Las Vegas having tea with Chuck Norris because that was all part of unpacking that seed.
Fucking hell.
So that's still unpacking now. I mean, I'm still writing stuff now that came from that original seed. Yeah. So it's still unfolding. So the potential to learn is infinite, but not if we do the work, not if we don't do the work. Yeah. And when we're going to do the work, we have to ask ourselves who's doing the work. In other words, do we know who we are? Because who we are has the will to do it. And who we're not needs to be burnt up in the volition of the work. Yeah. So the resistance that we have not to do the work is the energy we need to act as oil for the lamp. See what I'm saying?
I totally get that, yeah.
So once you wake up, you go, I'm in a kingdom, but I'm not in charge. Yeah. Okay, let's start getting rid of the things I can see. What can I see? Okay, this sexual pornography is not working for me. Let's get rid of that. I'm angry with my wife. Let's get rid of that. In other words, just don't engage it. Yeah. If you give it no life, eventually it will contract inside you and die. And the nature of that addiction will be liberated, and the consciousness or the effulgence that was in that will come over to you. Yeah. So every time I get rid of a bad habit, every time I get rid of a false belief or a negative cognition. Every time I do that, I make more room. I create consciousness. It literally pours in. And every time I create more consciousness, I'm more aware. So I'm here. I've got that level of, like a horse with blinders on. When I get rid of a bad habit, I get that much view, and I go, oh, that's great. I can see all that potential, but I can also see that that's in my way and that's in my way. So I get rid of them, and then it expands again. And it keeps expanding, and you keep seeing more potential to do more, but you also see more blocks that you can remove, or you can say, when we say remove, you can convert them. They're taking up consciousnness. It's just like a blot on the window. You remove it, you can see clearer. If I pull those curtains over, it wouldn't mean that there's no light outside. It just means I've blocked it. So in Buddhism, they would say, if we pull the veils back, the light that was already there will reveal itself. It's already there. So in Christian eschatology, it basically means the second coming of Christ. The allegory really means the second coming of consciousness. So we're not waiting for the next Christ or the next Buddha. We're to come into the world. We're waiting for it to wake up in us. So it's the birth of awareness, the birth of consciousness. And eschatology says that everything is already there already. Everything. We just can't see it. We just can't see it. So as we remove the obscurations, as we convert them, as we do the work and make those sacrifices, the consciousness and the awareness that was always there will reveal itself to you a little bit at a time. But you have to go through those levels, and it takes a tremendous amount of self-knowing, being able to know yourself. Coming back to what I said before, you've got to win your will back. People want to win wars with foreign countries. They can't even win their own fucking waistline. They can't even get their own waistline back. They want to they want to change this person. They want to challenge that person. They want to change the world. But we change the world by recognizing the world is projected from our own singularity.
We've ended up in a perfect place, because the one question that I want you to explain for the guys who are listening, and for me, because I want to gain more of an understanding of this, is this concept of there is an outer physical world, and you've touched on it a lot actually already, and there is an inner world. And I think it was Einstein that said something along those lines. The most powerful question you can ask yourself is, do you live in a hostile or a friendly universe? Could you explain that in Geoff Thompson terms?
Well, Milton, the poet Milton, said that the mind is its own place. It can make a heaven out of hell. It can make a hell out of heaven. So once we get control of the will, we start to determine, we're not.
I love that you've said that first. Like, you've got to get control of the will before you see any of this.
Yeah, you won't see it, because all you'll see is what you're conditioned to see. We've been conditioned to. In other words, somebody's put a film in our projector. Probably they were well-meaning. And we're watching a version of the life that they think they've given us. And we look at it and go, I don't like this life. I don't want these limitations. I don't like this small reality. There must be more. So you go into the projector and you change the film, and that's what they call the greater jihad. So the lesser jihad is when we go out and we try to fix the world, like you said earlier, by rolling up our sleeves,
bending it
and belting it. The greater jihad, or the greater war, is when we go inside and we go, oh, it's all coming from somewhere, and we go in and we clean it from the inside. And that is the greater war, because it's so unfathomable. We have to live in a place where we know we don't understand. You have to be comfortable not understanding. You understand that what you do will have an effect and that you will expand, but we have to always acknowledge that we will never be able to understand it. We'll be able to experience it, but we can't articulate it. I said at the beginning of the Divine CEO, I'm going to do my best to articulate this, what I'm feeling, but I know I'm going to fail because it can't be articulated. There's an old saying, if you see the Buddha on the path, kill the Buddha. And it basically means if you think you know what the fuck you're saying, you're wrong. You don't. What we can do is use allegories, and use parables, and use stories, and use, like we're talking about, the allegory of the nightclub, the allegory of the plug, and all that kind of thing. We try and use things to help people to explain something that can't be understood, but it can be experienced.
Yes.
So if I was working with you, my job wouldn't be for me to be a guru to you or to be a master to you. My job would be to, like Alex, would be to look at you and go, this is where I think you need to work.
Yeah.
And all I want you to do is work so that you can connect to your own inner guru. So in Judaism they say, when you reach a certain point, the soul will become your teacher.
Yeah.
So the soul starts to teach you. You start to hear it as a subtle voice. You start to get visions, flashes, directions, and you start to experience synchronicity, serendipity. Things that you need appear, other things that you don't need will disappear, and you realize that you're at the very center of it, but it's been orchestrated by a force greater than you, but it's a force that if you surrender to, you are that force. You see what I mean? So it's a greater force in you, but you are that force as well. Yeah. So once I plug into the electric, everything becomes the electric, the wire, the radio, everything that it touches becomes an expression of that. But it's not the electric, but it is as well. So it's that sense that if we want to understand the esoteric, first of all, we have to master the exoteric.
Yeah.
We have to get control of the physical body.
Yeah.
You know, so I always say to people, you know,
oh, dude, yeah.
Look at
it's making sense for me now.
If this magic works, if it works, and it does, but if it works, we've got to prove it to ourselves by, first of all, getting mastery of the body. What Gandhi said was, he said, once we master the senses, we master the senses through the palate. Once we master the senses fall into alignment. We have control of them. Once we master the senses, we master the self. Once we master the self, we are masters of the world. Because then what happens around us is determined by us, you know, through us. That's what I'm saying. So we're no longer, victims to what's going on. We're no longer looking to anyone to blame.
Yeah.
And then when you're at that level, if I'm out, so if my car is parked outside, you know, our in-laws' house, and I'm inside having a cup of tea, and someone runs into the back of it, my first thought is automatically, where am I out of alignment? Not, this girl ran into I had a very posh Jag some years ago, and she ran into it like it was invisible.
Yeah.
My first thought was, I'm out of alignment, and that's where we need to be. So I don't.
Whereas most people's first thought would be, what the fuck's she doing?
Car, yeah. So your first thought is where I'm out of alignment, and then you start to look at where you're out of alignment and be brutally honest with yourself, and you bring yourself back into alignment. Of course, I don't ring up the insurance company and say, listen, metaphysically speaking, this is all my fault because I was out of, I'd lost my sensor, I'd lost homeostasis, so I don't need to claim on this because really I know she ran into me, but it was really my fault. It's probably a bit of my karma as well.
Yeah.
You don't do that. You're still working with the rules of the world, but automatically you're going, the universe is speaking to me. My energy is speaking to me. My guides are speaking to me.
Rumble strip.
Yeah.
Rumble
strip is speaking to me. That's a beautiful analogy.
Yeah.
It's a great analogy. The rumble strip is speaking, and I need to listen. Otherwise, I'm gonna go out of my lane. It's actually a really good analogy that I think I might use and claim as my own.
I stole it from someone else anyway. So you're more than welcome to it. But I was ready to hear that as well. Like I was ready to hear that. It started when I hear, and that's why I love analogies so much because it starts to help me make sense. It is what I need. It's and some people might get it in a different way, but for me, analogies, I'm like, oh shit,
stories are massive.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah,
so much sense.
So it's just about saying to people, win your own will back. You know, the ego will let you think you've got your will, and that you own your will.
Yeah.
I spoke to a friend of mine. We were talking about alcohol, and I'd given it up many years ago, 20 years ago, just as an esoteric exercise in will.
Yeah.
I was exercising my will. I thought I'll try and give up alcohol.
Yeah.
And I was talking to him about it, and he really reacted quite funny to me. And I said, and he said, "Listen, you don't understand, Geoff." He said, "I've got control of my alcohol.
I just drink on it."
He said, I've got a bottle of wine in the fridge. I'll go in, I'll take a glass, I maybe take two. He said, and then I can put half a bottle back in the fridge.
Yep.
He said, I won't touch it. I have complete control of it. I said, oh, is that right? He said, yeah. I said, so you're going on holiday on Saturday, aren't you? He goes, yeah, 2 weeks. I said, don't drink for 2 weeks. Oh, if I want to drink when I'm on holiday, so he said, all right, I'm going to go on holiday. I'm going to murder myself. I'll kill myself for 2 weeks. I will. I'll be dying. I know that. But that's my choice.
Yeah.
I have control of it. And as soon as he heard his own language and his own rhetoric, he realised that he had no control of it at all.
Yeah.
He had no control of his own will.
Yeah.
But the ego and this theta acra, this negative energy, will wants you to think you've got control. Of course it wants you to.
Is that what gives you all the justifications?
Yeah, all the justifications, the rationalisations.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at yourself is painful.
Yeah.
I remember reading Ginsberg once, who was a great poet, and he said he had an epiphany, and it was one of the beat poets, had an epiphany in a bookshop. He said, suddenly looked around me, he said, I saw everybody was wearing masks, everybody. He said, but that's not what was disturbing. He said, what was disturbing was that everybody knew that everybody was wearing masks.
Yeah.
So what we've got to do, Paul, is be brave enough to be maskless. So when you write a book like The Divine CEO, or you write a book like Notes, that, from my perspective, that's my attempt at being maskless. That's my attempt to say, well, you think I'm a hero because I've watched my back, but I was a bully.
Yeah.
You know, you think I was this moral guy, but actually, you know, there was all sorts of murders and, you know, depravities going on in my head.
Yeah.
You know, you think I'm congruent, but I'm the least congruent man you've ever met.
Yeah.
So you write a book and say, these are all the things I did. The only way to get the shit out of the plumbing is to go in and plunge it out. You've got to get it out. It's just because you wake up and have an epiphany doesn't mean it's gone.
Yeah.
You know, I can have an epiphany, but that, you know, all
And that
those
going in and
experiences
plunging
are
it
still
and
there.
pulling it out could look different for
Everybody.
Yeah.
I'm not saying to people, listen, you've got to
go and write a book.
You've got to write a book and you've got to confess.
Yeah.
What
are some other ways then?
Yeah, well, you know, just first of all, just admit it to yourself. Just be honest with yourself, and don't wait. You know, don't what's the word? Don't wait for. You know, don't wait for a cancer diagnosis from a doctor before you start looking at your health.
Yes.
Look at it now. Look at the way you live. Everybody knows. Everybody really knows. Just look at it now. Don't wait for a crisis, because a crisis will wake you up, but it's a very painful way to do it. Yeah. So try and do it pre-crisis. Try and look at your life and go, get control of your body, get control of your life, and start to look at the things that you don't understand. Go in. Don't take yes for an answer. But first of all, just get rid of the gross stuff. So we're doing this play with a director called Hamish Glenn, but it's a big, detailed play, and the backstory was based on the Bhagavad of Gita, so it's quite complicated. But I loved it.
It's definitely complicated if it's based on the Bhagavad Gita.
No, yeah. But it's, but I mean, of course, the Bhagavad Gita is what it's about. It's just about winning your will back.
Yeah.
He's lost his will. He's lost his centre.
Yeah.
And Krishna's saying, you've fallen out of alignment. Come back into the centre. You know.
I love that because I don't need to read it now.
Yeah, you've got it now.
I've got it. I've got it.
I read the Gita and I thought, oh, I've done it. I've read it. And then it said, this is a chapter from the Mahabharata. So I thought, oh, I better read the Mahabharata then. So I read the Mahabharata, and it's a big chunk of a book, and I thought, I'm really pleased with myself. I've read the Mahabharata, and at the end it said, this is just a chapter from the Srimad Bhagavatam.
Oh, holy shit.
So my kids bought me the Srimad Bhagavatam, which was 15 volumes. Big,
holy
thick book by there.
shit.
So I stopped working for a bit and just read full time. And I read the Srimad Bhagavatam and said, no, I really am finished. And I read it, at the end of it, it said, this is just a section of the Vedas.
Really?
Which is 500,000 verses. So it's never ending.
Yeah.
And of course, with each of those books, there is the exegesis. There are books, like the Bhagavatam. The moment I finished the Bhagavatam, I attracted a Hindu teacher. He just appeared in my life. And the moment I attracted him, he told me two things that I needed to work on. Two things that I knew I wasn't working on and that I'd been ignoring. And he didn't know that. He just knew. I was attracted to him because I'd read the Bhagavatam. Mm-hmm. Most of his followers had never read the Bhagavatam because it's a big study. Mm-hmm. So he gave me these two tips, and he introduced me to a Hindu temple in London. So I started to attend that, and they led me on to the Yoga Vasishta. And if you read the Yoga Vasishta, which is one of the kind of commentaries on the Bhagavatam, the Yoga Vasishta is just this incredible book that I could only read a bit at a time, because it was like it was talking about the multiverse. Mm-hmm. It was like scientific stuff about the multiverse was only really discovered in the early 50s. Yeah. This was written 4,000 years ago, and it was a book about the multiverse, about multiple realities, and it really made me unsteady. I've got cognitive dissonance.
Yeah. Dude, isn't it mad that I was thinking about this the other day? A lot of the things that I do in my life now, a few years ago, I'd have been like, that is utter hippie bullshit, yoga, even Brazilian jiu-jitsu, men cuddling each other in pajamas, all that kind of shit. I'd be like, everything that I do now, a few years ago, I would have completely dismissed. What's that about?
Well, it's a house ghost. The ignorant, a house ghost. If you heard of a house
even
ghost?
meditation? No, I've never heard of a house ghost. No, meditation, yoga, ghost, all of that.
A house ghost is something is a ghost that they put out the front of a house to stop people who are entering unless they're really serious. So you go and go, I'm going to have a look around this house. And you see this ghost, you go, fucking hell, there's a ghost. So you run off. The house ghost. So when we pick up a Bible, our conditioning, the ego, which is a house ghost, will go, don't read, that's fucking shit. So
that's me.
It's all bullshit. So we don't go into these hidden books. We don't find the esoteric secrets because the house ghost scares us away. If we want to go into it, we have to absorb the house ghost. We have to go through that fear. We have to sit in that fear. We have to absorb 99% of it. Then we're in the house. Then we can start accessing the 99 rooms. I was talking about Hamish Glenn. What I loved about Hamish on this play, all the actors wanted to go into the minutiae of the character. They wanted to go into the detail. What's he say this for, and why does he do that? Hamish just goes, we're just going to do it in big blocks. This is what you're going to say. That's your job. You learn that, and you're going to move from here to here when you say that. You're going to move from there to there when you say that. That's the scene. And they're going, well, what about the detail? We'll do the detail later. So we look at the big stuff. So we start with the things that are obvious. I'm losing my temper in my car. I have no control. So I used to masturbate about my temper. I used to be, I've got a bad temper. Be careful with me. It was a big thing. Then when I realised I was like a puppet, for anybody that drove past could steal my will by just beeping a horn. A little horn beep and my will was gone. I'd lost my will. I'd lost my autonomy. My kingdom was stolen and invaded by trillions of stress hormones that badly affected my body because somebody pressed a little buzzer.
Fucking hell.
So you go, okay, let's start on that. I'm struggling with road rage. What does that mean? It means I've got no control of my will. You think you've got control of your will, but somebody drops a nice comment and you feel splendid all day. Later on, just as you're going to go to sleep, you read it again. Somebody drops a negative comment. You can't fucking sleep. Who's in control of your will? Not you. So that's shocking to read.
It is.
Geoff told me that. I read 1,500 pages of the hardest fucking book in the world. Beelzebub's Tales to his grandson. And I didn't understand any of it. And right at the end, he just said, oh, you people of the world, you men of the world, you think you've got self-control. And I thought I was in charge. And he said, in one phone call, he said, you can be destroyed for the day. Someone takes your autonomy from the day. And I thought, I nearly threw it overboard. It was so rude. It was so raw and so true of me. I had no control at all. So it's saying, win your will back. Get your will back. You are in a kingdom. You've woke up. Well done. You're reading me. You've woke up. Well done. But don't be in too much of a hurry to put yourself too far ahead because you're still controlled by your sensual body. So Hamish said, let's just look at the big stuff. Let's get the big stuff. Let's get all the big stuff in place. Let's get the losing our temper. Let's get all of the stuff where we're spending more than we're earning, or we're lazy, or we're
eating shit.
We're eating shit. We're eating too much. And someone mentioned meditation, and we go. One of my friends said to me some time ago, "Fucking sitting saying when there's kids being raped in the world." And I'm like, well, you're watching sexual pornography. And these kids are being raped on the screen and you're masturbating to them. You think they're there from their own free will? These kids are hijacked. These kids have no will at all. They're not there because they want to be there. This is depravity. You're watching it. You are contributing to the rapes in the world every time you watch this stuff. But that's a hard thing to look at.
It is.
It means taking away your pleasures. It means recognizing that you're not that you're not awake, but you have got no control of yourself at all. And he doesn't think he's not got control of himself because he thinks he's free will to watch this stuff, but he's not actually tracing the history back to these films and how they're made and the abuse that goes on and how these kids are possessed, And we have an idea that this is a grown woman and they've made a decision, but that's someone's child. When I battered people on nightclub doors, I wasn't battering a husband or a father or a son or a brother or an uncle. I was battering monsters. Because that's what my ego said. This guy's a monster. He's dangerous. He's gonna try and get in your pants. He's gonna try and hurt you. He's gonna damage you. He's gonna kill you. So get him first. Don't even talk. Don't even do the Kissinger stuff and get a bit of negotiation going on. Just twat him.
Yeah.
And when he falls down, stamp on his head.
Yeah.
So that when he does wake up, people will say, "Don't go back and fight him again. He jumped on your head when you was unconscious."
Yeah.
Or stamp on his ribs, so that he might want to come back for another fight, but he won't come back for another fight because he's injured.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just ignorant. I was a brute. I had no control at all.
Yeah.
But that was the first part of me waking up was to be in these fights and then feel the stab of conscience afterwards and the terror of killing somebody, but then I'll kind of wash it off, and then as you start to study more and expand more, and you start to question it. And then you're walking down, so the universe is recognizing that you're looking at the hidden realm, at the hidden worlds, and you're walking down the street and you see a guy who the night before you battered, and he's walking down the street with his wife. He's got a pram. He's got a little girl holding this arm of the pram. He's got a little girl holding that arm of the pram. He's pushing the pram. His wife is walking behind him, surveying what's left of her husband's face. Man, so upsetting.
Yeah.
So upsetting.
Yeah.
Because he was a monster. No, he wasn't. He was a factory worker.
Yeah.
And he's got to try and explain to his wife, what happened to him. And I'm looking at what I did the night before. So full of remorse.
He's got to explain to them girls as well.
So full of remorse. He's a daddy, you know. It's easy to batter a monster.
Yeah.
It's easy to masturbate over sexual pornography when you think it's an adult making an adult decision. When you recognise it's somebody's child, they may be in an adult body, or when you recognise that's somebody's daddy, you start to be careful about every single thing you do. This is what happened to Buckminster Fuller, who was one of the greatest inventors of his generation. He got to the age of 40 and recognised he hadn't really done anything. And the only times he'd been successful was when he spontaneously did acts of kindness for other people without thinking about himself. And he had a breakdown. His daughter died and he had a breakdown. And he said suddenly realised that the only time he was successful was when he would done things from a place of kindness. So he said, from now on, all I'm going to do is things that serve millions of people. That's all I'm going to do. And he said, I didn't speak for a year because I recognised the power of speech. He said, I recognised how many people, I'm paraphrasing, but I recognised how many people are damaged with my talking, with my unconscious, ignorant talking, how many people I'd hurt. And a lot of people, I knew I was hurting them when I was saying it as well. He said, so I didn't speak for a year. He said, I didn't speak until I knew what I was talking about. And then everything he did came from a place of kindness. So that's what I was going to say to you about the kids watching this. If it all feels complicated, just come back to a place of, am I working from a place of kindness? Is this coming from a place of kindness? If it's not coming from a place of kindness.
To yourself.
For yourself as well. But if it's not coming from a place of kindness, it's not coming from you. It's coming from a sub-personality. It's coming from a pain body. It's coming from an imposter. If it comes from an unkind place, it's not human. It might be in the animal realm. It might be in the vegetable realm, but it's not coming from the human realm. Because in the human realm can't sit side by side with anything unkind. Everything comes from a place of kindness because it comes from kindness. And kindness and compassion is God. That's what God is. The omniscient, the omnipotent, the omnipresent is compassion. In Islam, they call it Arama, which means compassion. God, the all-compassionate one.
Wasn't there a study done? I remember talking about this last month, actually. I'm sure there was a study done saying that it was like a happiness study or something, and I think the biggest trait that people had who were the happiest people on earth was compassion. Yeah,
compassion is one of the words in the Quran. They said there's 99 names for Allah in the Quran, and the biggest one is compassion. And they are seen as attributes or remedies. So we see it as a religious book or a dogma, but it's not. It's actually the Quran is a book of remedies. You can get certain words that have certain vibrations.
Well, bro, this is crazy. When you're talking about meditation, the word Om. In my meditation, I've worked with the Ashayas, and one of they call it an attitude, is Om compassion.
Yeah.
That's mad, isn't it?
Yeah, so when you
what does it mean, compassion?
It means that you're literally downloading God. You're downloading the energy, the perfect homeostasis. It's actually a remedy. So the 99 names can all be related back to the one name, which is compassion.
Yeah.
So you're taking in, if you imagine your body's full of viruses, full of parasites, when you take in this absolute, this indivisible energy called compassion, it is an antivirus. That's what it is. So it isn't like, this guy's religious and he's he's praying 5 times a day or it seems foreign to us.
Yes.
This is actually someone that's just connected to the panacea, the antivirus. So we're taking in compassion. When we take in compassion, we're taking in God.
Yeah.
But God's a clumsy name for it, but there isn't really a good name for it.
Yeah.
So I could say we're taking in the universe, but it sounds very new age.
Yeah.
And I could say we're taking in consciousness, but it sounds quite scientific.
Yes.
So I'm interested if people are watching this and they're offended by the word God. Great.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm your teacher today.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Because if a little word can trigger something in you, then I'm showing you where there's a block.
Yeah.
And we can investigate that block. That if you haven't, someone interviewed me the other day, and he said, I watched you on London Reel, and he said, as soon as you started speaking, he said, I started crying. He said, you hit something. And then about 5 minutes in, I thought, who the fuck is this twat? What does he know? He said, no, I switched it off and went away. He said, then I sat there and thought, what is it about this guy that's wound me up?
Yeah.
And he recognised I was a teacher for him. Yeah. So I triggered something in him that he didn't want to look at. So we came back on and he listened to it. And he realised that what the reaction he had was an obscuration that he needed to clear. So that contains consciousness. It's hidden within that. So he ended up coming and doing a podcast with me.
That's amazing. Dude, that is amazing.
Yeah, I know, it was really good. So compassion is the absolute. Yeah. So it's something that is indivisible. It's not separate. It's not divided. It's the absolute. So we're taking the absolute. If you have got the absolute, there's no room in your body, in your life for illness, for ailments. No need for remedies. No need for anything. Everything is just absolute. Then we're just walking through this paradise. So that's the aim.
Dude, that's amazing. And do you know what? I could talk to Geoff for we could do a week-long podcast. But mate, honestly, if we're finishing on the absolute, the end, and compassion, what a great place to fucking finish, mate. Where can the guys find out more about you? Because, like I say, the reason I wanted you on was for one, a selfish as fuck reason, two, for the other reason, which is more people. I'm blessed to be the guy that's gonna tell more people about you, your message, and your knowledge. So, where can people find out more about you and get more of this fucking gold, mate?
But the only place I've got online is I've got an Instagram page that is ran for me by a girl called Gabriella.
Yeah.
So all my current stuff is on there. All my output is on there.
Yeah. Well, which book would you have people start with who've just heard of you?
I think you said it earlier on. I think
Warrior's fucking incredible, especially for the guys that are listening to me.
Because the language is
it is, mate. The language is at the level that the language is for the guys that are listening in. You got to go get this book because I was saying to Geoff, I've listened to it twice. The first time I was in a low place. The second time I was where I'm at right now. It was last year, and I feel like I didn't even read it the first time. I got so much. It was like reading 2 different books. It was incredible.
Yeah.
So I'd strongly recommend Warrior and your new book.
Yeah, there's one called Notes from a Factory Floor, which is just that, and then there's a Divine CEO.
Yeah.
So if they're listening to this podcast, their intuition will already talk to them and hopefully lead them towards a book.
Yeah.
But I've seen a lot of people have transformations with the vibration of Warrior. Warrior's at a good vibration.
Yes.
So I would say that's a book I like to give people a lot. If they want something even simpler, The Elephant in the Twig is a really good book to look at.
Yeah.
If you feel as though things aren't right and it's not your fault, have a look at The Elephant in the Twig, because you'll open the pages and it'll slap you across the gob and say, down to you, do the work.
Actually, I'm going to give a shout out because I just remembered who sent me this book, a guy called Dean Coulson, who I'm sure you know very well.
One of my old friends.
Dean sent me Warrior. In fact, it wasn't even 2016. I would say it was when I was living in Marbella, which was 2014. And that was when I was at my suicidal tendencies. That's when I first started showing them.
Yeah.
That's probably why when I read it again last year, it felt like because I'm a new person.
Well, you've seen it in a different light, because every book has...
I read that one in the dark.
Yeah. Did you?
Yeah, I read that one in the dark when I was in a dark place.
Yeah.
And I read it last year when I'm starting to see some kind of light in my own life.
Yeah. Well, every book you read has multiple meanings. And the meaning will... There's an old saying that... everyone that reads the Quran writes the Quran. So in other words, what you're reading you're reading at your level. So as you read it and it's a different book, it's because you've expanded to another level.
Yeah.
And then if you read it again later, and it's different again.
Feels like I've put glasses on now.
Yeah.
Feels like I've changed the glasses and my glasses are more powerful now, and I really got it the second time way more.
The potential to be kind is infinite.
Yeah.
It's the potential to work from compassion. At the moment we start working from compassion, we start to attract all the right energies towards us, because they will recognize an aligned energy and they will head towards you. They'll rush towards you. So it's that sense, what they say, you take one step towards me, I'll take 10 steps towards you. So the moment we start to work from a place of kindness and compassion, especially with the people who most challenge us, then we'll start to attract the right energies. And if people challenge us and people trigger our adrenals, people trigger our endocrine system, or people make us angry, they're our teachers. That's a hard thing to look at, but they're our teachers.
Mate, Geoff Thompson, holy fucking shit.
Thank you.
Mate, wow. Incredible. Mate.
Thanks.